Hey everyone, Michael Rosehart here talking to you guys today about the mystery of the credit score. What is the credit score and why do you care about it? Your credit score is very important in helping you essentially to do anything in society today. If you want to rent an apartment, your credit score is going to come into play to determine your ability to make rent payments to the landlord. Do you want to buy a house? Same thing. Buy a car? Same thing. Whether you're leasing a car, buying a car, financing anything, your credit score is the single most important factor that comes into play when a lender is determining your ability to repay. And it's really important because it determines the interest cost along with the ability for you to afford and qualify for loans. So I'm going to talk to you guys today about what the credit score is and the mystical equation about how it's calculated, because it can be debunked and you can game the credit score to your advantage. I'm going to put up another video, you guys can check that out here. I'm going to put up another video after this that's going to talk about techniques you can use to actually boost your credit score and grow your credit score. Today's video is just about how the credit score formula works and what is the equation, and then the next video is going to be about how you can use that to your advantage. I'm hoping in this video you're going to walk away with an understanding of how the credit score is calculated, as well as potentially a few areas you can focus on to improve your own credit score. So that's the actionable advice here. But let me walk you guys through it. As you can see right here on this board, I've laid out for you guys just how the credit score is calculated. So let's look at the most important factors first by weight in the equation. So 35% of your credit score, and by the way guys, your credit score is ranging from 300 to 900. 300 being the very worst credit score you could have, 900 being the very best credit score you could have. So the goal is to help move you guys towards the spectrum around 800 to 900, because that's the excellent perfection range for getting optimal applications for loans approved, as well as the best interest rates. Anything over 800 tends to be about the same interest rate, so that's very, very important. 35% of your credit score is based on your payment history. Payment history is essentially how regularly do you make payments on your credit. So when something is due within 30 days, do you immediately pay off that balance, or do you carry a balance into the following month? Have you missed a payment? Have you been delinquent in the past? Have there been any collections against you? So your payment history is the most important thing. The best thing you can do to boost your credit score is to pay off debt, or at least make the minimum payments each and every month. The minimum payment does have the same effect on your credit score as paying down the credit, assuming you follow the other factors, including utilization, so you don't want to overutilize. Within the payment history, there's a payment rating from R1 to R9. So an R1 is someone who frequently, on all of their different credit accounts, pays the bill when it is due. That includes cell phones, that includes your lease payments, your mortgage payment, your loan payment, your line of credit, your credit card, everything that you have, every piece of credit. If you have a cable bill, whether you pay it on time, all of that goes onto your credit score and is reported. And it's very, very important to determining whether you're an R1 to an R9. I personally am an R1. At my worst, I was an R2. An R2 is effectively you've missed a bill payment or two, and you're paying it within 60 days typically. When you get over 120 days due on many of your accounts, you will move into the R5, R6 categories. This has a devastating effect on your credit score. But the good news is credit rebounds relatively quickly in several months if you begin to follow the right processes and steps. I also want to mention that your credit score, all the data, is based on 6 to 7 years of history. So after 6 or 7 years, things that you did, whether it was declaring bankruptcy, or you had a terrible ability to pay credit, or you maxed everything out and just didn't make any payments, all of that will go away within 6 to 7 years. And in fact, recency is the most important thing. In each of these categories, what you're doing most recently impacts your score the most. So if you missed a payment a year ago, it's not going to affect you near as much as if you missed one last month. So continuing to follow and ensure you make good payments on your account. 35% of your score is based on your payment history. The next most important category is utilization, and many people don't factor in the importance of utilization. In fact, the optimal utilization is less than 30%. I've heard less than 50% on the high end, depending on the type of credit, but ideally less than 30% of the available credit. If you have a $1,000 limit on your credit card, you never want to spend more than $300 of the available credit. You want to have $700 available, $300 spent. That's 30% utilization. If you go above 30%, it starts to impact your credit score negatively. So very important, guys, that you don't max out your cards. Even if you're paying it off at the end of the month, maxing it all out during that month and then paying it off on time still will have a negative impact on your credit score. So good utilization is very important. If you need to, spend, for instance, $5,000 a month on credit cards, you better make sure you get, say, $25,000 in available credit and use each card separately to remain below 30% utilization. So credit utilization, very, very important. Don't max out all of your credit if you're looking to get a really good score. Next, by order of importance, is the 15% waiting for credit history. Credit history is very, very important, but the key piece about it is actually age of credit. So how long have you had each of the credit products on your report? Have you had them for, say, only 2 months? That would not be a good sign to a lender. They would like to see that you have an established credit history. So if you had a credit card that you've had for 9 years and you close it tomorrow and open a new one, your average age of credit in your credit history will be negatively impacted. I have a credit card that I got when I turned 18. I've had it for over 8 years. It has a $500 limit. I rarely will use it. I'll use it maybe once every quarter just to keep it open and available. That's very important because it takes my average age of credit and stretches it out. The longer you have credit open, the better the history they have to go back and see how long you've been making payments. So you want to keep, even if your credit card churning, you want to try to keep your average age of credit as high as you can. The longer the history, the more history you have, the better the lender can make the decision. That's why the credit score is higher for people who have longer aged credit. Next important on the docket is credit product type. You might think just having one credit card or one mortgage or one car loan is enough to build your credit. In fact, it's not. Some advice that I got when I was looking to build my own personal score to over 860, despite having like 7 mortgages, several products, I have a dozen credit products that are currently open, and yet I have still been able to get advice from someone who was looking to give me advice on how to improve my credit. The lender said, go out and get a merchandise credit card. I had no idea. This was one category I was missing. And the key piece being that I didn't have for instance, Sears or Canadian Tire or, pick it, right? Walmart credit card. Having different types of credit cards is actually important, and you have to space it out and be very careful because you don't want too many inquiries either, and you don't want to age your credit so that you have, all your credit is brand new either. So you got to kind of play the game, play the different variables against each other. But credit product type is very important. So you'd likely want to have a mortgage type, potentially a unsecured type of line of credit, secured credit. You're going to want credit cards, different varieties of credit cards. It's a good idea to have a cable or a phone bill or a Rogers bill on. So Rogers here in Canada is the internet provider that I use. A cell phone provider. There are a whole bunch of different varieties of credit that you can get, and having different product types of credit shows the lender how you use that credit. They want to see how you use different types of credit when they're making the decision to lend to you. And the last important piece, the last 10% of the equation, is the inquiry section. The inquiry section or inquiry section is 10% of the overall weight, and what they're looking for is how many soft or hard inquiries you've had on your credit in the last 30, 60, 90 days, a year. They can even go back up, like I say, 6 or 7 years. And essentially, the more often you ask for credit, the worse, but there's a certain amount that they expect you to ask for. So if you're asking for a credit card, once every quarter, you got 4 or 5 applications a year, that's not going to have any negative impact on your overall credit score. In fact, they expect some of that. This is why it's often a good idea to use a mortgage broker. They can hit your credit once and send it out to 10 lenders instead of going to 10 different lenders individually. When you're applying for credit, that's a harder inquiry. When you're applying for, say, somewhere to rent or sometimes to open a cell phone plan, those are soft inquiries. Hard inquiries take 3 to 5 points off your score. Softer inquiries can be 0 to 3 points off your score. So all things to really maintain and factor in when you're thinking about, how do I build my credit score? What things have I been doing lately with my credit? Has that been building my score, or has that been taking away from my score in certain ways? So in the next video, check it out right here. I already linked to it earlier in the video. You guys can take a look and see how you actually build your credit score. So this is the equation you got to use. Now I'm going to talk about some tips and tricks in the next video on how you can learn to build your credit score, because your credit score is so very important to getting essentially ahead in life. You want to use leverage and debt to buy cash flow and appreciating assets. So credit is so important to being able to do anything in society. It will get you cheaper debt, and it will get you better apartments to rent. It will get you better, access to credit. Very important. It's how we, essentially the credit score is something that lenders out there use to evaluate how likely you are to repay them and how good of a person you are at managing your finances. So there you have it, guys. If you enjoyed this style of video, let me know. I'm trying out a new style of video a little bit here, so let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this. If there was something I missed in this video, let me know. I'm happy to go live on YouTube. Every Wednesday I'm going to do Wise Wealth Wednesdays, where I talk about different wealth management strategies and techniques. I'm happy to discuss this in further depth. If there's something I left out, let me know in the comments. I will happily add that in the description. So thanks for tuning in, guys, and check out the next video on how you actually game your credit score to get the score that you're looking for, that excellent credit score that will get you access to all the capital you need to buy properties, to buy businesses, to really grow and flourish and become a wealthy individual in our society today. Thanks for joining in, guys. Remember, spend less, earn more, and maximize your returns to unlock a wealthier you. Cheers.